Oh, good morning. The sun is coming up here on the island of Java in Indonesia, and still in the bus on the way to Jakarta. I guess it's about 400 kilometers or so left. Okay, so let's look at the introduction to John chapter 16. This is like one can say the last teaching chapter in John. It's not to say that no more teaching, because I mean through the cross all of this will make sense. So that is the showing out, like the washing of the feet was the showing how to serve, showing it right in a very practical way. The cross, which is still ahead, is going to be then that ultimate fulfillment, that ultimate teaching moment to show really what true servanthood is, like the thing that the washing of the feet alluded to. Right. So, but after this chapter, we get the next chapter, which is the prayer, the priestly prayer, where we even are mentioned. Those who are believers will become believers throughout all the ages, right? And then after that, it's the whole scene in Gethsemane and etc. The crucifixion and the resurrection, finishing off with the fishing there in Lake of Galilee again. Okay. So what is the introduction to John chapter 16, and what is this chapter about? Like I already mentioned, it's like the last teaching chapter, where Jesus is going to speak as well more about the Holy Spirit, but not only. Okay, starting off with in the previous chapter told them that the people will hate them because they're not of this world, that He choose them out of this world, and in this chapter is saying, right, that there will be they will be put out of synagogues. Remember as well the healing of the blind man, where the parents didn't want to speak out because they said, people, they were told that if they might be put out of the synagogue. Okay, so it's not just a future event, as some claim. This already was a clear and current danger for them. Right, and that those people ultimately even think that they're serving God. Now, here is a great example: is Paul. Who will be then changed by God, as we see in Acts. But ultimately the reason is they're doing this because they do not know the Father. And again, Jesus saying, as is said a few times in the past, that these things He is saying because of that when the time comes that they will remember, right? At this stage now they don't understand, at this stage now they don't remember, but when then. Okay, so as well in saying, so these things that He's teaching them now, He did not, it's not something that he told them from the beginning. He was there with them to guide them step by step, but now He's leaving. Okay, so it's like those final things you tell someone before you die. Okay, there was no need to tell him before because you were still there, but now that you're leaving, you need to inform them, like you will ask will and testament or something like that. Okay, what's going to happen to your stuff? While you're with the people, you don't need to say, you need to make it, because you never know when you're going to die, but you need to make sure it's there by the time you die. Okay, so yeah, again a mention of the sorrow, and then it starts speaking about the coming of the Spirit and what it would be the task of the Spirit, right? What the Spirit will do, like convicting the world concerning sin and righteousness, judgment, concerning judgment as well, right? And the Spirit, when He comes, He will guide them. So there's lots of work. So it's speaking about the work of the Spirit, and lots of the more primary work, not the secondary work, which will later on be described mostly by Paul, right? But a lot of this primary work that needs to be done, and how the Spirit will glorify Him. And he speaks about how they will have He's going to leave, they're not going to see Him, and then they will see Him again. And we will look at what He meant by this seeing and not seeing, okay? Because like the coming and the going, kind of, or the going and the coming. and that he's here going to the Father, and the kind of questions they have before that, and then he uses example of a woman giving birth to explain it's when she's giving birth, it's pain, it's hell, it's not nice at all. Okay, but when it's done, she rejoiced because a new life has come into this world. In the same way, they will rejoice, although now they are the trouble, they have no joy. Okay, but then they will have this joy. Um, and the last part of the chapter about saying how he spoke kind of in figures of speech, right? But now he's going to speak plainly, and then they're like, they answer like, oh yeah, now you speak plainly. Just because you said now I'm going to speak plainly, now like, oh yeah, now I understand. Now you're speaking plainly, and Jesus' reaction to that is kind of comical in a certain sense. I mean, sure, it's not. I mean, what is happening? Lying ahead, Jesus knows what is lying ahead, and etc. Right? Or maybe you can say sarcastic. I mean, but well, it's not sarcastic. It's not comical. Why? I mean, comical in the sense of, yeah, you understand now. Oh yeah, right. Why you misunderstood before? But as well, at the same time, Jesus asking, you really understand now? He knew that they didn't understand yet. They just, like we're supposed to say, right? This is what the answer is supposed to be like. We're supposed to say that now we understand because you said now I speak clearly, so now you can understand. Like, so now we ought to say this. Right? It's like was like a joke if someone asked a question in Sunday school, the answer is always Jesus, and if the answer isn't Jesus, look at point one. Okay, well here and there might be Paul. But so yeah, even if you don't know the answer, you can guess the answer. You're like, oh yeah, we know it's Jesus. And like, you understand why? Right? If you start asking the question, you might understand. Okay, this is just because it's kind of the answer. At least that was what we were told. Okay, so a bit like they here, they didn't really understand, they didn't really know yet, but they knew this was they're supposed to say so. And so Jesus like, oh yeah, really, really, okay, yeah. And ultimately, he ends up with saying that he told them as well all these things so they will have peace. Remember earlier as well, he spoke about peace, not the kind of peace the world gives you, but his true peace. Okay. And finishing off with, he has overcome the world. That's great news. He has overcome the world. He overcame the world. How? Well, we will see. We know. Of course, we know how the story is going to play out. And he overcame the world with his ultimate sacrifice of his own life.